Alright, starting at the stream right now, we're getting into Game 2 of Eternal Knights versus WKDMT. Unfortunately for WKDMT, their record falls to 2-1 after a big loss to Eternal Knights. Moshido going to be subbed back, and unfortunately he wasn't available this last game. Purification losing his lane to the Chalk. Hopefully we'll see a better game here after recouping, and the first ban that they're going to show off is the Ovelix ban. I think that was a big reason that they lost this previous game, is that Ovelix was such a prominent factor in getting the picks in the early game to come their way much quicker and allow the disparities that they had in their dual lane to be nullified by the leads that they had elsewhere on the map. Shamija is going to be with the first pick here. I'm thinking probably a Kernanos if they really want to get that out of the hands of Trent. But with Bologna off the table, I think also an Osiris would be pretty good. However, Chalk going to be immediately locked in. I think Moshido should have a much easier time going up against that. First couple of picks coming out of WKDMT, I expect to see maybe a Fafnir as well as a Kernanos, but they can really do whatever they want here. I think in mid lane you want something stronger like a Thoth or even a Poseidon, but we'll see what they pick up. Probably gonna have to delve a little bit into their pool of extra time, thinking about what they really are going to prioritize here. And after seeing that shock first pick, might be thinking about what solo laner Moshido needs to get his hands on in order to win that lane. Still thinking about what their first picks are going to be. I really think Kronos should be locked in immediately by Trent. However, Sylvanas is going to be hovered on and locked in. Haven't seen Sylvanas in a little while, but Sylvanas a very good character. I think Apollo also going to be locked in. A very different dual lane for them. Not feeling like Fafnir or Kronos are going to cut it for them. The next two picks from Eternal Knights are pretty much going to show exactly how comfortable they are with those upper tier gods, leaving both Kronos as well as the Fafnir open for them, even an Osiris. But Sol and Ganesh are both going to be locked in. Mike, I think, taking that Sol in the mid lane, knowing that even though he was pretty prominent in that last game on that new wall, Sol a little bit better for burst and objective secure, which is something that they did decent at. But with that Sol on their team, I think that they'll have a much better chance faring in the mid lane as well as in rotations and fights coming outside. Vulcan going to be locked in, even though he struggled in this last game, not worrying about it, not sweating it, locking in the comfort pick for himself. The bans coming through from WKDMT are probably going to be that Kernanos, even if you haven't seen them pick it up yet, and they first pick they opt for the Shibbolunke the last game. You still don't want to see them pick up a Kernanos because you give them the benefit of the doubt. You just want to be safe with these bans here, but again, delving into their extra time, thinking about what they need to ban and what they're going to prioritize here. I think in the solo lane, it wouldn't be bad to see somebody like an Osiris in Moshido's hands to try and bully that shock out of lane and see if you can't win that solo lane. Purification did an okay job from early to mid game and made some pretty decent plays after he started rotating out of his lane. But during that laning phase, a Bologna really shouldn't have too much trouble against a shock, but we will see. The ban for them is actually going to be the Scotty. Not wanting to see that go in the hands of Shamija, possibly just, again, doing their research and trying to take a pretty good character out of their hands. For the first time, I think they might delve into their pool time Eternal Knights. Already using their regular time, now delving into that pool time. I think banning out somebody like an Osiris would be pretty good. You have Snake Eyes on that shock in that solo lane, and you know that came up pretty big in that game, so try and keep his lane as easy on him as possible so he can easily rotate out. Even a ban into the jungle, possibly take away a Hunbat. A Circuit is going to be what they call for, taking that out of the hands of the Truth. I'm not sure what the Truth is thinking about playing here, but Circuit might have actually been a good pick for Eternal Knights. The anti-heal would do pretty good against a Sylvanas, but opting just to take that out of their hands, they probably don't have that in their arsenal quite yet. See what the ban is going to be for WKDMT. Again, delving into their time. I'm not 100% sure exactly what they're discussing, but I guarantee you it has to do with the solo lane. Hey, can we take this away? Are you comfortable against playing with this jungler? What are you going to need, Moshido? Let's see if we can't get that lane to be the one that carries us through the rest of the game. Shibalanki going to be taken away. Shibalanki that last game didn't do too great. He did have a good record, and he did oodles of damage in that late game, but that's something you expect out of a Shibalanki. I think early to mid game, he's too easily shut down and too unsafe of a pick to have on your team, banning it away instead of opting to just play around it. So I think just bending a little bit too far into the will of the Eternal Knights and allowing them to ban and pick who they want just because they had a decent game last game, only because WKDMT made so many mistakes and let that game out of their hands in the early game. Curious to see what the Truth is going to take into the jungle. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Hunbats. It would do pretty good of disrupting a Chalk, disrupting a Soul, disrupting team fights, and allowing Sylvanas and Vulcan to get big damage off with their huge AoE ultimates, and seeing if you can't get Apollo online pretty early. I think Apollo, a very good pick in his own rights. Chrononews probably would have been the better pick there. So far, unpicked and unbanned is the Chrononews. The Truth with the 7th pick of the game, thinking about possibly what jungler he wants, or they're going to make a request as to what solo lane they want. Naja going to be hovered on and locked in. His jungler, Naja, with an interesting character, does massive amounts of damage in the early game with that ring toss if you can hit it, and the Sash ult combination is always something to be aware of. But once that ultimate is down for Naja, he is the most immobile, one of the most immobile assassins in the game. Has a quick burst heal to keep himself alive, but if he needs to hold on to that ultimate as long as he can in sticky situations, and only use it when he knows his team is there to peel for him and help him out. It might be a soul carry. I don't think soul carry is... Well, soul carry, because they took that Fatalis off for the soul carry potential isn't quite as good as it was last season. I mean, she was a first pick, a consistent top pick, top ban, but Neith and Arachne, however, both going to be locked in as their jungle and carry picks. Neith probably just another comfort pick for Shamija. Moshido going to be thinking about what solo lane he wants right now. And Ravana actually going to be locked in. I completely didn't realize that. Ravana making his way all throughout the pick and ban phase, and to the last pick, it's going to go to his credit. He's going to pick that up and hopefully take the soul lane into his hands. Game 2 looking a little bit different in the draft phase, but hopefully in this early game we'll see immediate differences in how well WKDMT plays, playing with their starting lineup right now. And as the clock ticks down, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about what's going on in this ban phase. The Hunbats was actually banned out by Eternal Knights, which I think was a good call. But Naja, still a risky character, and I think WKDMT's draft is going to revolve around what Destruction does on Sylvanas and how Stormjack can do better in that mid lane with that Vulcan. That last game, I think he went 1-7 or something to that degree. Have to be very careful in that mid lane and see if you can't get an advantage against that Soul. Soul will poke you out. Soul will take out your turret. She's going to be annoying, but if the Truth can help out Stormjack, I think that mid lane is going to fare a little bit better as long as the communication is there. He got caught out from a lot of rotations from Snake Eyes on that shock that should have easily been called, and immediate retreats also be called on the side of WKDMT. I think communication needs to be cleaned up here. I will be right back. I'll start the stream again when the game is starting.